guys, and welcome back to another week of the Porsche Cup car here on iRacing with myself and Matt Emery. Week 7 here at Sebring, bringing us to another week of Porsche Cup action. But yeah, firstly, let's get into the hot lap. Okay, so let's get into the hot lap guide then for the Sebring circuit. That brings us to week 7 of the season. Now you're going to notice that there's a different car this week, and the reason for that is the rest of the season. We've got Luke Pennington, who's taken over the data pack from myself. I'll still be doing the hot lap guides and talking you through the lap, but you notice the car is just slightly different and different driver as well. But nonetheless, getting into the lap, down at the final corner and along the pit straight. Quite a bumpy track, as you guys will know. An old airfield, very flat but very bumpy. Coming down to turn 1, you want to open the corner up as much as you can. You'll notice there's a bit of space in the right-hand side as the barrier sort of opens up towards turn 1. So you're going to be wanting to use all of the track on the entry, just making sure we're getting as close to the wall as we can, and then turning in towards the apex. Just looking to brake for a reference point. To be honest, it's quite a hard track for references, but you're sort of looking to brake just as the barrier does go slightly wider, in line with this sort of line here. Onto the brakes again, just being really careful we're not locking the brakes up too much here. Hugging the inside wall as well, and then on the throttle, you notice already we're on the throttle here, halfway through the corner. All about the exit turn 1 as well, and the minimum speed through the apex. So doing a nice bit of trail braking on the way in, down to 4th gear, just trail braking slightly towards the apex and back on the throttle as early as we can. Using all of the curb on the exit, just making sure we're not touching the grass, as you will pick up an off track for that. So just making sure we're going to the edge of the curb and no further than that. Quite a tricky corner as well, especially when you're practicing, just to get your references right. But yeah, just make sure you get a practice in. You're aiming to really turn in to get your tyres in around this yellow line, and that will take you quite nicely into the corner. The closer you can get to the wall as well, generally the quicker your lap will be, or your turn 1 will be. It's all about the minimum speed through there. As I said, using all of the curb but not the grass, and then starting to brake for turn 2, just in line with these 3 cones on the right hand side here. Also a nice handy white line across the circuit as well. About 90% brake pressure, just following this curve on the inside round. There's a nasty bump here that you can catch just slightly, and what that does is helps rotate the car around the corner. So that is, in a lot of cars, that would be an issue. But in the Porsche car, it quite likes the bumps, so it's not too much of an issue. You can actually use it to your advantage. Back on the throttle, obviously still in third gear, hopping over this curb as well on the right-hand side again. Cars doesn't mind that too much. And then just making sure we're back over to the right-hand side, using all of this curb on the entry as well. Still in third gear, just opening up the corner as much as we can. Now keeping it in third gear around the apex of the corner, again just hugging the inside. You don't want to touch this curb as it will unsettle the car. You're looking more to follow it round, follow the yellow line round rather than hop all over it. Onto the throttle then as well, using all of the curb again on the exit, just making sure we're not touching this sandy part of the track. Again, off track will be given if you go out there, so just be really careful. Throttling out, along the sort of back straight, completely flat out obviously, and heading towards 250 kilometers an hour. Heavy on the brakes. You're looking just underneath this bridge and just before the 4 cones on the left hand side for a braking marker. Braking quite heavily here, obviously very easy to lock up. If you guys are struggling with locking up your front tyres, then obviously go 1 or 2 clicks back on the brake bias, and then that will really help the front locking. Again, really important to get this corner right. Clipping the apex, down to first gear and then short shifting up to second as well. So just play it through for you once more so you can see the telemetry at the bottom. Heavy on the brakes, just trail braking into the corner, down to first, short shifting to second, and using all of the curb on the exit as well. Obviously flat out then around these couple of corner sequences. Not really corners unless you're in the wet, of course. Clean it to the left hand side and then back on the brakes, just in line with these 4 cones on the left hand side. Again, heavy braking, just make sure we're trailing in, just be careful we're not locking up. You can use this curb, but I suggest you don't. Again, similar to turn 3 and 4. You can use the curbs here, but the ones where you're looking to sort of run it around the corner, you're better off avoiding. So, for the little ones where you're hopping over them, just to shorten the track, that's fine. But these longer radius corners where you're hopping all over the curb, it's not great for traction. So better to sort of avoid them, just go around and get a better exit. Back on the throttle in second gear, completely flat out around here. Up into 4th gear now. And then obviously in the middle of the track, coming into this next section. Now this is a very tricky braking zone as it's slightly bumpy and also it's actually slight dip before the corner as well. So braking just sort of references the end of this curb here, maybe just slightly before. And then just being really gentle on the brakes as while you're braking, you're also turning as well. And that's going to load the front axle up quite a lot, and it's going to be really easy to lock that inside right front tyre. So just be really careful with that. You notice we're not using too much brake pressure, about 60% maximum here. Using a bit of the curb on the entry as well, just down to 3rd gear. And then nicely brought to the apex. Again, just a slight little hop over the curb on the apex, which is absolutely fine. Let's just get on the throttle as early as we can, and again using all the curb on the exit. Completely flat out as we go into the final couple of sectors here. You've got these little kinks here in the straight, completely flat, and then back over to the left hand side as early as we can for the final few S's. Braking at the end of this curb here as a reference. So before the 3 cones on the left and towards the end of this curb. Heavy braking, getting the car into the S's. You can get on these curbs quite a lot and use them to your advantage. They hook you around slightly, especially if you get inside them. So that's something you can use to your advantage as well. Obviously being really careful we're not overshooting the corner, which will compromise the next couple of corners as well. So just make sure you aren't pushing the entry too hard here. And then back on the throttle, using this curb on the left to open up the next corner onto the back straight. And then just make sure we're using all of this curb. Back over to the left hand side, using all of this entry speed that we can, and all this tarmac. As you guys will know, there's no off track for this. So it's just use it to your advantage. And again, really help the exit. Using all of the curb on the exit curb as well. You notice they updated Sebring in the last couple of seasons, so the curves are slightly different, and this is one of them. It's quite slightly more serrated, but still, again, grip's absolutely fine, so it should be absolutely fine to use. Heading down the back straight then, completely flat out. 1 braking zone to go. Again, a very, very tricky braking zone, slightly combined where you're braking. You're also turning as well. So starting to brake just in line with these 3 cones on the left-hand side. Not too hard, about 60% maximum pressure. You notice how we're trail braking really nicely into the corner here. And obviously that means just holding the pressure and slowly coming off it, being really smooth with it. And that just helps turn the nose of the car in. So let's play that 3 for you once more. You notice the brakes just slowly just fading. Wait until we get to the apex and then back on the throttle. A nice smooth curve for the final corner. You're looking at about 3rd gear. And you notice we're not apexing too much, we're not too worried, we're just taking a nice curved line round the corner just to get a nice minimum speed. And then back on the full throttle once the rear end is back in compliance. And then that completes a lap of the Sebring circuit. So that was the hot lap guide then for the Sebring circuit for week 7 of the Porsche Cup car. Hope that was useful for you guys. And obviously we'll be back for next week for week 8. Yeah, make sure you check out the Discord and obviously coachdavepenby.com, all the latest data packs. Any feedback as well is greatly appreciated. But yeah, we'll see you next week for week 8. So take care, guys.